The moment my mother raised her glass and called my sister, "The reason your father is still alive," I realized I had spent years protecting people who never intended to tell the truth about me. My name is Sarah, and growing up, I was always the quieter daughter. My younger sister Olivia had a way of becoming the center of every room without even trying. She was loud, emotional, charming, and impossible for my parents to say no to. I was different. I handled problems quietly. I worked hard. I stayed responsible. If something needed to be done, I did it without asking for recognition. For most of my life, I believed that eventually mattered. I was wrong. When my father got seriously sick, our entire family changed overnight. The diagnosis terrified everyone. Doctor appointments replaced normal conversations. The house became quiet in a way I had never experienced before. Then the doctors told us he needed a kidney donor. Everyone in the family was tested. Only one person matched. Me. I still remember sitting alone in the hospital office after hearing the results. I wasn't scared the way I expected to be. Mostly, I just kept thinking about my father surviving, about giving him more time. When I told my parents, my mother burst into tears immediately. My father hugged me harder than he ever had before. For a little while, I thought everything between us would finally change. But Olivia reacted differently. At first, she seemed supportive. She came to appointments with me and acted emotional whenever doctors explained the risks. But over time, something strange started happening. She slowly inserted herself into every conversation. If relatives called asking about my father, Olivia answered first. If family friends visited, she positioned herself beside him like she was personally carrying the entire situation on her shoulders. Meanwhile, I was recovering quietly. The surgery itself went smoothly, but healing afterward was harder than I expected. I was exhausted constantly. Simple movements hurt for weeks. But I never complained because my father was recovering too. That was what mattered. Or at least, I thought it did. A few months later, my parents hosted a large family dinner to celebrate my father's recovery. Relatives filled the house. Everyone laughed again for the first time in months. Then my mother stood up with a glass in her hand. "I just want to thank Olivia," she said emotionally. "She stayed strong through all of this and saved our family." The room filled with applause. I remember sitting there frozen. At first, I thought maybe more was coming. Maybe she would mention me next. She didn't. Instead, Olivia smiled modestly while everyone praised her strength, her support, her sacrifice. Sacrifice. That word hit me like ice water. Because suddenly I understood something horrifying. My parents had allowed everyone to believe Olivia was the donor. Not officially. Not directly. But through silence. And silence can become a lie very quickly. After dinner, I confronted my mother privately. "You never corrected them," I said quietly. She sighed immediately, already defensive. "Does it really matter who gets credit?" I stared at her in disbelief. "Yes," I answered. She rubbed her forehead impatiently. "Olivia has struggled emotionally through this entire process. She needs support right now." Support. I had given up part of my body for our father, and somehow Olivia was still the one who needed protecting. That conversation changed something inside me permanently. After that night, I stopped attending family gatherings regularly. I kept conversations short. I stopped correcting the lies because honestly, I wanted to see how far they would let it continue. The answer was very far. Over the next 2 years, the story grew larger. Family friends praised Olivia constantly. My mother repeated versions of the story at parties and gatherings. People called Olivia selfless and brave. And every single time, my parents let it happen. Meanwhile, I built distance quietly. I focused on work. I moved into a new apartment. I created a life outside the version of me my family seemed determined to erase. Then one day, everything changed unexpectedly. My father needed follow-up treatment connected to the transplant, and certain medical paperwork had to be reviewed for insurance purposes. A formal family meeting was arranged at the hospital because authorization signatures were required. I almost didn't attend, but something told me I should. The meeting started normally enough. Doctors explained procedures while administrators reviewed documents carefully. My mother sat beside Olivia looking calm and confident like always. Then one administrator paused suddenly. I just need confirmation from the donor before continuing. The room went silent for a second. Then the administrator looked directly at me. Ms. Sarah Collins? I answered quietly, yes. My mother's face changed instantly. Olivia looked confused. The administrator continued reviewing the paperwork naturally, completely unaware of the tension exploding across the room. These documents require the donor's direct authorization signature. That was the moment everything collapsed. Because suddenly every person in the room understood the truth. Olivia wasn't the donor. I was. My father looked stunned first, then ashamed. Olivia turned toward my mother slowly. What is he talking about? No one answered immediately. The silence itself became the answer. Finally, I spoke calmly. I was the donor. Olivia blinked repeatedly like she genuinely couldn't process it. You let everyone think it was me? She whispered toward my parents. My mother panicked instantly. We didn't mean for it to become. But you never corrected anyone, Olivia interrupted. For once, even she sounded horrified. My father lowered his head completely. The administrator quietly excused himself from the room after sensing the situation had become deeply personal. Then came the part one never expected. Olivia started crying. Not dramatically, not for attention, real tears. I didn't know, she whispered to me. And for the first time in years, I believed her. Because suddenly I saw it clearly. My parents hadn't just erased me. They had manipulated both of us. They needed a hero everyone could admire publicly, and Olivia fit the image better than I did. She was emotional, outgoing, easy for people to celebrate. I was quiet, invisible, convenient to overlook. But facts are harder to ignore when they're written in hospital records. After that meeting, everything changed. Relatives learned the truth quickly. Conversations shifted. People who ignored me for years suddenly reached out apologizing. But honestly, the most satisfying part wasn't public recognition. It was watching my parents lose control of the story they had carefully shaped for years. Because once truth enters a room, manipulation becomes very difficult to maintain. My relationship with my parents never fully recovered after that. But strangely, my relationship with Olivia improved. For the first time in our lives, we stopped competing for approval neither of us should have needed in the first place. And I finally understood something important. Some people will rewrite your sacrifices to protect the version of reality that benefits them most. But truth has patience. Eventually, it speaks for itself.